Morning, everybody. It's been a while since I've done this because one is I'm just not really good at it, and because I'm not tech savvy like all you cool kids are. Anyway, just because I don't always post on bodybuilding.com, or if you're someone that trains live with me, you know, or you follow us on Instagram, whatever the case may be, doesn't mean that I am not paying attention or not watching. And one of the things I want to talk about, let me give you a quick overview, and I'm driving, so bear with me. A few things that I want to talk about. We recently had a meet, and I want to talk to you about that. I had a lifter whom I've talked about before that had some issues, and he bombed in the meet. But we'll get to that. I have another lifter that I know very, very well, intimately, and the problem here is when you don't follow a plan. And then the other thing is just addressing some of the mindsets is really like where I made a comment in Ananda's log. There was some comments by other people whom I don't coach, whom I don't know. I've just seen them post. And so it's not really a rant, although there are times, many times, that I want to, and I hope that you understand that my frustration isn't because I think people are stupid. It's just I think, one, is I'm invested, and I have to periodically kind of back off the throttle a little bit, because coaching, like after coaching this weekend, we had 4 lifters on the team lifting, and it is exhausting. And all week I'm in the gym with people, and then, you know, people, you know, that if you're watching this, you're likely on the team or interested in the team, and I'm with you when you're frustrated or angry, or you're not feeling well, or you're injured, or things are going well. I'm on that roller coaster with you. And when you do that with roughly 40 people, it comes with a price. Now, that's what I signed on for. You know, so I just want you to understand, I'm impassioned about what I do, and I'm impassioned about what you do. And my frustration comes from the limitations of that you guys set upon yourselves. You'll tell me what you won't do. You won't show me that you can't. You know, so, you know, that's the genesis of this video. That's why I'm making this video. So first, I have a lifter. He's a master age lifter. I think he's roughly 45 years old. And I think the last video that I made, I talked about how he had done this no carb thing because he wanted to cut some weight, and he needed to make weight to qualify for nationals. And so he just zero carbed it. There was no discussion. I didn't know. And he started struggling. And it wasn't like we're at 90% and he's struggling. Like, I'm talking 70 to 80% struggling. And I don't mean like, oh, that set was so hard. He was missing. So when we had the discussion, he came clean with the fact of what he had done. And those are the things that makes it very frustrating, because it's such a detriment to the lifter to do something that is so dramatic, you know, and a huge change. And for strength, it's not just powerlifting, it's for anything. Your best bet, I make this analogy all the time. If you watch NASCAR, what these guys do when, you know, they come into the pits and they need a little more traction with the tire, they'll lower the air pressure just a little bit on one of the tires, and they may adjust the wedge and the camber, blah, blah, blah. But the point is it's a very small adjustment. Well, why is that? Even if they think, you know, a full turn and the adjustment will do it, why do they only do a quarter? And the bottom line is the analogy is that you want to have a small enough adjustment that if it just simply doesn't work, you can go back. You can go back to ground zero. Where if you just start making these wholesale changes, then it's completely different, and no adjustment can be made. You can't get back to ground zero. And so strength and learning leverage is very fractional. So that's why I always say make adjustments, not changes. So if I see a lifter that's really using a close grip in their bench press, and I know that they will be better wider, I usually, if it's ultra close, I'll do 2 fingers, but by and large, I'll move it out a finger's width, and we'll do that for 4, 5, 6 weeks and see how they adjust. If I immediately see an improvement of power, especially speed off of the chest, I'll go, let's get our work sets done, and I've done this with many of you, and I'm going to have you go out to what you think is a wide grip and see what we get and see how you respond. And in that way, we're still working in the confines of what you're comfortable with, even if it's an adjusted grip, and we can A/B it with the big change. That way you always have a ground zero to go back to. So with this particular lifter, we went back to eating some carbs, and the plan was we will be sensible and do this weight cut reasonable. So go ahead and ask, did that happen? The answer is no. So what happened? Well, this was a USA powerlifting meet, and these meets, it is a 2-hour weigh-in, which means you have a certain time that you can weigh in. Once the weigh-in clock is done, lifting starts 2 hours later. It's not a 24-hour weigh-in. Some will have even a bigger, gap in time. So go ahead and ask me. He was doing a water cut. Did that get done correctly? No. There's a drive. I think he said 4 hours. And because of schedule, whatever the case may be, didn't drink enough water. And that basically makes the water cut, if you don't water load, it makes it ineffective. So the next question is, how did he lose the weight? And remember, morning of, there's a 2-hour weigh-in. He sat in a sauna for 2 hours, finally made weight, and was so lethargic and punch drunk from, again, being depleted, then being dehydrated. I couldn't get the warm-up process. I couldn't seem to get him in gear. And this meet had 3 flights, but the flights were very small. So it went quick. I don't remember how many lifters. I'm going to say roughly 25. And we were done. I mean, we left, I want to say, at 2:30. Lifting started, 9:30. I honestly don't recall. But a very fast meet, especially for 3 flights. Well, what happened? Well, clearly underperformed, and come deadlift, he was cramping so bad, and couldn't replenish, drinking everything in sight. And see, the dangerous thing is when you do that sort of thing, you have to keep plenty of the things that are going to replenish, and straight water is not going to do it. Eating something that's got a little bit of salt on it is not going to do it. You're going to have something with minerals, a couple of Pedialytes, some Gatorade, something like a Nunes tablet in water. I wouldn't even drink straight water if I'd done a water cut while I was competing with a 2-hour weigh-in. But none of that was discussed, and so the moral of the story is, goes out to do an opener deadlift, he can't even pull it off the ground because he's cramping so bad, and you can see he's almost in a state of panic. And so what happens is the end result is that he bombs. In a meet, now this is a lifter that's qualified twice and competed in nationals, but due to not being prepared, he's not totaled enough to be the automatic qualifier for the following year. And so now we've we've gone through a training cycle. Now, there was an injury and stuff like that to deal with it, but everybody has that to deal with. And so I'm not picking on him, but when you do this and you want to do it at the national level, even as a master, you can't, there's no shortcuts, there's no cutting corners. You have to put the time in. And if you're coming in too heavy and having to do, these water cuts, and one, you have to do the water cut correctly, but you have to plan and you have to be realistic. So the question for him, he's out of the country with his wife now, she's competing, is what do you really want to do? If you want to be in this weight class, we've got to be closer at all times. And that means making an adjustment in what you eat every day. The other thing is if you aren't going to do that, then we need to be in the bigger weight class and be done with it. Because what we're doing is we're ended up spinning our wheels and we're not making any progress, because you have to requalify every year. So the answer to all that is, why I'm saying anything, is if you're someone that has trouble with weight, then you need to stay on top of it. Track it. I'm not one of those guys, track your macros and all that stuff, but most of us are not big on accident. Like, how did I get up to 350 pounds? I only had 2 slices of pizza. Look, don't bullshit a guy that's big. I get it. And not all of us are meant to be skinny, and I don't, I'd love to have abs, but I don't give a shit to go through all that stuff to do it, so I'm not going to have them, but I'm not going to whine about being big or whatever the case may be. I'm well aware of what I am. But if I had a goal, when I cut to 308, I knew that I had to make some changes. I knew that for a period of time, it was going to change my lifestyle. And for all you ladies out there that follow all these other lifters, there's a lot of things that come into play. What is their lifestyle? How old are they? Because I don't give a shit what anybody says. I understand that 50 now is the new 40 and all that happy shit, and that's just great. And I'm for it. But if you don't think that it's different from 40 to 50, then you are fooling yourself, because I am telling you from experience, because I always love these people that give advice to older lifters about what they should do when they're 29, because you have no fucking experience being 40, let alone 50, and the wear and tear that comes with that. Even if there's been no injury, you weren't a high school football player that blew out your knee. You see my point. But you have to make adjustments based on what your goals are. And if you're tired of being fat, or if you're tired of being weak, don't eat so much. That doesn't mean you have to do this crazy deficit bullshit that I see people go through, and then they end up feeling miserable. They don't ever get to do this, they don't ever get to do that. Now if your goal is to have abs, then you're going to have to do without some shit. You're going to have to make a decision to do those things. Here's what you can't do. You can't track your macros and be all crazy about it and be on point for 2 weeks and go, why don't I have abs? Because it doesn't work that way. It is all about being consistent. And that is the thing that is the undoing of so many of you. You're not consistent. And I understand life's tough. I understand people are busy. I will match your schedule any day of the week. You have to make a conscious decision to do it and be consistent. Even on days you don't want to do it, because I promise you, more so now than used to, there are days you're just like, fuck, I'm done, But you have to go in there and get it done. If you want to achieve your goals, if you have these things set in your mind that you want to achieve, you just got to get it done. And there's no elite level athlete that wants to train all the time. They do it because they know it is what they have to do to get to where they want to be. And that ties into, again, if you have a weight problem, or if you're trying to make a weight class, or you want to have abs, or you want to wear a bathing suit, or whatever the case may be, you must be consistent. And that means you can't get so out of control. Go when the meat's done, have that pizza. Drink extra beer. Go get it done. But I'm telling you, having cut 70 pounds in less than a year, I didn't drink as much beer. Sometimes I didn't even drink beer. Sometimes I would go for weeks and not have bourbon, if you can imagine that. And then if I did eat pizza, I'd have 3 slices, maybe 4, if I was exceptionally hungry. But, I also managed to make sure that I did cardio, just some extra work that was low impact so I could recover while I was training for the 308 weight class. And what got me there was just being methodical, being consistent. And even though I would get disappointed from time to time because my weight wasn't moving, I knew that if I was consistent, if I stayed with the plan and was methodical, the weight would come off, and the weight came off. And the reason why it didn't stay off is because I didn't stay consistent. I'm like, I'm going to have a couple more beers. There have been some weeks in the last couple of years where I've probably had 1 or 2 beers every night for 2 weeks. Well, it's not a mystery, and so my point to all that is being big, or having the issue is not an accident, by and large. I'm using a big broad stroke here. Now I want to go to this other lifter that competes a lot, competes in multiple sports. And finally, it's like, got to have a break, went through a weight cut for the last meet, hit the goal, hit a lifetime goal, wants to go through a conditioning cycle because the lifter wants to go up a weight class and put on some muscle and has some goals. And again, right now is focusing on 2 sports, being powerlifting and primarily right now strongman. So I have a conditioning cycle that I use for lifters. It is tough, super tough, because all the main movements in the first phase, and they're based on percentages, and it's a progressive overload. There's no question about it. The first phase is 4 weeks long, and how it works is you have 3 sets of 10. Squat, bench, deadlift, incline, steep incline dumbbells, and overhead press. In this particular case, because of the strongman event, we're not doing the conditioning on the shoulders. It's just too much. The shoulder strength will come from the inclines and the incline dumbbells and training the implement. The whole idea is that first phase is a conditioning phase. 3 sets of 10 on squats based on a percentage is pretty tough. And your assistance is 3 sets of 10, and we select X amount of assistance as well. And so the idea is, keep in mind that I preface this lifter wants to put on muscle and go back up to the heavier weight class, but do so while conditioning. And I have noticed we're in the 3rd phase, but I'm going to explain how we got there. I have noticed all cycle long that the lifter doesn't appear to be gaining any weight, to the point we have a big argument about it. So the 4th phase, and now let me go back. How this works is you have 4 phases that last 4 weeks long. That's the schedule. It's a 16-week cycle. If you don't miss any reps. If you miss 1 rep, you have to repeat the week. Now let me explain to you, that does not mean, like, say squat day you get all your reps, bench day you get all your reps, but you miss rep 10 on the 3rd set of deadlift. You don't repeat the deadlift session, you repeat the entire week. Very tough, very tough. But what it ensures is that your body is ready to go to the next week or the next phase. The 2nd phase goes to 4 sets, and the rep count drops to 8. Assistance follows as well. This is more of a hypertrophy or hypertrophy growing phase, whichever way you pronounce it. The third phase is a 5x5, which a lot of people are familiar with, and that's where the strength really comes into play. But you've been through, the 8 weeks of conditioning. Those two first phases, it is crucial that you use those phases to add muscle. It's, that's where you're really going to add size, and the volume is super high. So based on that, you would make sure in your food plan that you are eating enough food. And in this case, because you're doing so much volume, you have to have so much fuel, not only for the training, but for the muscles that you want to grow. It's not enough just to do protein, especially when you have the propensity to be lean, which this lifter does. So now we're in the third week of the third phase, going into, and everything looks good. Strength is really good. I couldn't be more pleased. But I noticed on the light days with the conditioning, all the sessions are done twice a week. You have a heavy day, you have a lighter day. And we've had really, really good success with people going through this. But I've noticed on the light days that the workload just seems to be as difficult. And so this morning I asked, because I'm like looking at this lifter going, there's no way that the lifter's gained any weight. And I questioned it, and at the risk of causing a fight, and I've asked twice what the current body weight is, and I haven't got it. This lifter cut to 165 and wants to go back up to 181. And what I'd really love, and I understand it's tough, this is a female lifter, I'd love to see her weigh about 185 pounds and do a light cut, baby cut. I mean, it's like, don't eat any pizza for a couple weeks and drink less wine. And probably would make 181 with no issue, especially with her propensity to be lean. So here we are. We're going to be going, this is week 13. We're going to be going, it's week 11. Going into the last week of this phase, I would be willing to bet money that not only has she not gained any weight, that going through the cut that was so costly, that she weighs less than 165 pounds. Here we're doing all this work and no weight gain. And like I said, I'm really pleased with the strength gains. I really feel like that has improved, and I think it's allowed us to make some adjustments in form. And she wants to look at doing a USA powerlifting meet and all that kind of stuff. So she's, using this time to learn, and get a feel for the changes that she generally squats and heels and out of a monolift. So she would need to be able to walk it out, not, use braces versus knee wraps, on bench being flat-footed instead of being up on the toes. There's just a lot of things. While it's basically the same, it's still different. So, and there hasn't been much communication with me on where are we at with weight. Like I said, there was a big argument, so I have just kind of avoided that just to maintain the peace and stay focused on the task at hand. So you can see where there is an issue there. And again, you're going to go through all this training, and if the goal is, now goals change, and some of you, spin like a top where you jump around from program to program. Not my guys. Everybody seems to be fairly on point. I could do a whole different video on, staying the course and staying on plan, but that's a different story for another time. The other thing is, like I saw someone say something about hook grip and it hurt. And this is how I'm going to address that. If it's better for you, if it's going to help you lift more weight, that's going to help you lift more weight and reduce the risk of injury, and you deal with the discomfort of your thumbs, you should do it and quit being a pussy. Because I'll make this analogy. There's not one of you people out there that the first time you had sex that it didn't hurt, that it wasn't really awkward, and that you weren't afraid. And if anybody tells you I went in there and handled that shit like it was no trouble, you quote me. You show them this video and tell them I said they are lying, because they're full of shit. However, let's say it was awful, you cried, it hurt, it was embarrassing and awkward. Did it stop you from doing it again? Answer is no. No, it didn't stop you. You did it again and again and again, and you found what you dig and what you're comfortable with, and you may not be any less awkward, but you know how to cope with that awkwardness. You know, my point is, while that's really a funny analogy, it is very, very true and applicable. Stay the course. It's not always going to be comfortable. Deadlifting is hard. It's not going to be comfortable. Sometimes your back's going to be sore even when you do everything right. But if you want to do this, you keep doing it and you keep getting better and get stronger. Quit selling yourself short. Try these things and stay after them until you get adept enough at it. I pull hook. I feel my thumbs, but by and large it's just not a big deal, and the lift is over. And then your thumbs are fine. So, stay to the plan. Don't fuck yourself by doing stupid shit. Don't be such a pussy. All right, have a good day.